All right, if you're just joining us, we've got a couple polls on the screen here. Would love to hear from you about what your role is and your experience with the energy code. It'll help me, speak to the different roles that are here with us. Make it a little more custom for you guys. All right, so I like to see that we have a lot of builders and contractors because you guys are the primary user for the installation certificate. So I'm glad to see we've got a lot of folks here. Energy analysts, folks from the California Energy Commission. So welcome, Amy. I see you there. Energy consultants, some designers and architects, and a few others here. So good, a pretty diverse group, but a lot of contractors. So that's good. That's all right. Well, let's go ahead and get started, Camille. Thank you. All right. I am going to share my screen. I'm Sally Blair. I work with NRCIs. I do a lot of work for Energy Code ACE, and we'll talk a little bit more about Energy Code ACE here in a minute. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. The installation certificates for non-residential and for low-rise multifamily are completely redesigned for the new 2022 code, which went into effect last week. So this is good timing to get up to speed on what those look like and how to complete them. So that's what this session is about. If you guys have questions, feel free to raise your hand. Lisa was describing this icon in the top, at the top of your screen. It's a little gray hand, and you can click on that to raise your hand. Or you can put it in the chat over here on the left. Everybody's saying hello, good morning, hello everyone. So feel free to type a chat in there if you have a question, and we'll make sure we get it answered as well. All right, let me share my screen. And then I didn't want to miss the cool animation, so I'll put it into presentation mode now so you guys can see this cool animation that I cannot take any credit for. All right, you can get a continuing education credit through the ICC for this course. So here's the course number. It's also in your workbook. So if that is relevant to you and you want to get ICC credit, feel free to apply for that. Okay, so like I said, we're really going to focus on the certificate of installation, non-residential. The low-rise multifamily certificate of installation is very similar to this. So if you do projects that are 3 stories or less that are multifamily or mixed use, this will also be really relevant to you. But the example we're going to run through today is for non-residential. Like I said, the new installation certificates are completely redesigned for this code cycle. So we're going to look at those and get you guys familiar with what that looks like. We're going to talk about how to use these install certificates as a tool to help the installer complete their tasks in the compliance process. That is the whole reason they were redesigned this code cycle, is to make them not just paperwork, but to make them a tool for you guys. So I hope it's really helpful for you. And then we're going to look at the Energy Code ACE tool, the virtual compliance assistant, and how you can complete these forms through that online web tool. Some of you guys may be familiar with the Energy Code ACE already and familiar with the website. There's a lot of tools, training, and resources available on the Energy Code ACE website to help people comply with Title 24, Part 6, the Energy Code, and also Title 20, California's appliance standards. The tools are really meant to help you guys complete tasks in the compliance process. So a lot of times they're interactive. So for example, the virtual compliance assistant is a tool that helps you complete forms and understand whether your project complies. The reference ACE tool helps you navigate through the code language, the reference appendices, the compliance manual. The product finder will help you identify products that are compliant with Title 24 Part 6. Yeah, yes. So if you mean Title 24 reports, the compliance forms that are needed for permitting through the building departments, yes, the virtual compliance assistant will create those forms for some of the non-residential forms, some of the low-rise, multifamily, and mixed-use forms. So in a few slides, we'll go through which forms are covered by the VCA tool. That's what we call it, VCA. Okay, so Energy Code ACE also offers a lot of training. Thank you for attending today. We have a lot of training on the website, a lot of webinars, instructor-led live training. So if you guys are looking for more skills and knowledge related to Title 24 or Title 20, Energy Code ACE could be a really good resource for you. And all the trainings are listed on the Energy Code ACE website.
And let me plug specifically something that you will find on the Energy Code ACE website under training is the video series that we did on the virtual compliance assistant. It is a 2019 course, but 99 and 44 100% of it is still applicable, and it orients you. It covers a lot of what Sally's going to address today, only it focuses more on the certificate of compliance and the overview of how the virtual compliance assistant works. So those videos may be of interest to you later.
Yeah, great. Good point, Lisa. Thank you. There's also a YouTube channel for Energy Code ACE that also includes a lot of short videos on how to, energy model, how to complete compliance forms, all sorts of stuff. So check out the YouTube channel as well. The Energy Code ACE website also includes a lot of resources. These are like quick reference guides to help make the code language a little bit more accessible to people and help you guys understand how to apply it to your projects and make it a little bit more readable and easily accessible. So things like fact sheets, checklists, stuff like that. So definitely check out the Energy Code ACE website. Here it is, energycodeace.com. Pretty easy to remember for a lot more resources. So today we're really going to focus on the installation certificates, but to understand where they really fit into the design and construction process, we're going to talk about all of the non-residential compliance forms. And then, like I said, we'll go through a demo where we actually use the virtual compliance assistant to complete an installation certificate so you guys can see how that works. And then at the end, we can take any outstanding questions that don't get answered during the webinar. And also, there's a survey at the end to make sure that you guys are providing a lot of value. I'm sorry, that you guys are getting a lot of value, that I'm providing a lot of value to you in these trainings. Okay, so I thought we would start by just looking at an example installation certificate. I keep saying that it's been redesigned, and I think the best place to start is to just look at one. So this is an example for indoor lighting. This is non-residential. And like I said, the whole idea behind redesigning these for the 2022 code cycle is to make them a tool for installers and for designers and for authorities having jurisdiction to basically help you guys document substitutions in the field and ensure they're equal or better to what was permitted on the compliance certificate. So the general gist here is this is a table that's showing the lighting fixture schedule. And so, but all of the different forms are very similar and the idea behind them is similar. So the idea here is for each lighting fixture, L1 is the first one, L2 is the second one. There are 2 rows per lighting fixture. So if this were a piece of mechanical equipment, it would be AHU1, and then there would be 2 rows for AHU1. The top row describes what was permitted on the certificate of compliance. So the certificate of compliance is typically filled out by an energy consultant or by the designer during design. And that's what goes in for plan check. And then the permit that's issued, the construction permit, is based on the construction documents and the associated certificate of compliance. So the top row is showing what was permitted. The bottom row is showing what the installer is going to say that they have installed. So those are the as-built conditions. So what this is showing is for fixture L1, this is what the lighting designer specified in their construction documents and also entered into the certificate of compliance. They're saying that this fixture is used in conditioned space, that it's 27 watts per luminaire, and that they have specified 34 of these L1 luminaires on the project. What this is showing is the as-built conditions are exactly the same. So what this is saying is the lighting contractor has said, you know what, I'm not making a substitution here. I'm going to install exactly what the lighting designer specified in the construction documents and what was entered on the certificate of compliance. So over here in the last column then, it's showing the compliance status. So what this is saying is the installed features exactly match the design on the permitted certificate of compliance. So what this is showing is there is no substitution for fixture L1. What we're going to do when we demo the VCA tool is make a substitution so that you guys can see what it looks like when we make a substitution. And then this bottom row would be different than what was permitted in the top row. So this is really just kind of a quick overview so you guys understand the concept here of the redesigned install certificate. So now a little bit more context about when these different forms are completed and what their role is throughout the design and construction process. So during design, what you're going to do is go get a building permit, and that's going to be based on the compliance certificate. So NRCC is the acronym, and it stands for Non-Residential Certificate of Compliance. And then whatever the building system is will be here in the middle. So we were just looking at indoor lighting. LTI, lighting indoor, is what would be shown here for the indoor lighting compliance certificate. If it's mechanical, it's going to be MCH. If it's plumbing, it's going to be PLB. So the name of the form is trying to indicate the building system that it documents. The compliance certificate is typically completed by energy consultants or designers and submitted to the plans examiner to get that initial construction permit. So what it's showing is this is what we have included in our design as it relates to energy code compliance. Then come the installation certificates. The installation certificates are completed by the installers, and it's saying this is the substitutions we've made, and here's what has been installed in the project related to energy code compliance. So NRCI means non-residential certificate of installation, and then it's going to have all the same acronyms in the middle. PLB for plumbing, MCH for mechanical, LTI for indoor lighting, LTO for outdoor lighting. And you don't have to memorize these because typically when we refer to them, we also say, you know, outdoor lighting, LTO. but you guys will get used to it. We're hoping it's reasonably intuitive. Lisa, I saw that there was a question, but it like pops up for me and then it goes away. Would you read it?
How is the NRCC registered on VCA and project IDs assigned?
Yeah. So right now there is no requirement for registration of non-residential forms. So until the California Energy Commission approves a non-residential registry, there is no requirement for non-residential form registration. So the VCA, Energy Code ACE and the VCA tool are not non-residential registries. So you don't need to register a form at all until the CEC approves a non-res registry. Project IDs are assigned by the VCA tool. Typically, that's not something you're going to need to worry about, a project ID. If you submit a bug report through the VCA tool, we may ask or we may get your project ID through the bug report, but it's not typically something that you're going to need to worry about at all. Okay, let's keep going. We're not going to go in depth on the acceptance forms or the verification forms, but I do want you guys to be aware that these forms exist. The NRCA forms are documenting the acceptance tests that are required on the project. So non-residential certificate of acceptance. The NRCV forms are documenting HERS measures. So if you're a high-rise multifamily project or a high-rise mixed-use project, you may trigger non-res certificates of verification because there may be HERS measures related to the dwelling units on your project. And then at the end of the process, as you guys know, the AHJ will issue the certificate of occupancy. So don't get confused here. The certificate of occupancy is not a compliance form related to Part 6. It's the same thing you guys are used to hearing, the C of O. It's issued by the enforcement agency. All right, so let's dig in deeper here to the installation certificates. So this next section, I'm going to do a brief overview of the value that the virtual compliance assistant provides to you guys. And then we'll go ahead and jump over to the actual website and the tool itself and do a demo. And then at the very end, we can talk about how to access your projects within the tool. Okay, so we came up with a pretty short list of what value this VCA tool can provide to you guys. Again, we're trying to make things, our Energy Code ACE tools are trying to make things faster and easier for you related to energy code compliance. And we're really trying to automate as much as possible. So the virtual compliance assistant covers non-residential forms and low-rise multifamily forms. One of the biggest benefits to this tool is that we'll bring in data and information from the compliance certificate for the project to automatically populate the install certificate. So we're trying to put the information that you need to consider based on your scope of work as the installer at your fingertips, and then and really automate half the form completion for you. The other thing which I talked about earlier is verifying that your substitution complies. And I think the biggest benefit here is if you use the VCA tool while you're doing your submittals, you can verify right then as you're choosing equipment or materials or luminaires or whatever it might be. You can verify right then whether what you're choosing is equal or better than what was permitted. And then you can submit that to the designer with your submittals and say, hey, we want to make this substitution, and we've already verified that it's equal or better than what was permitted as it relates to energy code compliance. So really baking this into your process of putting your project submittals together, I think would provide the most value. You don't want to find out when the acceptance test technician or the HERS rater or the inspector shows up that what you installed doesn't comply, because then that really creates problems in the field. And worst case, you have to remove it and replace it with something that does comply. If the form doesn't comply, if your substitution is not equal or better, so it doesn't comply, then the VCA tool will identify that for you. So you can tell exactly what doesn't comply, which luminaire doesn't comply. And then the other intention here is to make inspections go faster and be easier for building inspectors, because the installation certificate itself will say everything that's on this form is equal or better than what was permitted, so it complies, and the inspector can just look for that and say, okay, this compliance check part was already automated for me. The form says it's equal or better. I see, installed in the building what is showing up on this form as as-built condition, so we're good to go. So the intention here is to sort of pre-verify that you're complying with Title 24, and then make it easier for the inspector to verify that in the field. Right now, in order to go ahead and pull the information from the compliance certificate into the install certificate, the compliance certificate has to be completed either through Energy Pro or the virtual compliance assistant. And as far as I know, prescriptively, those are currently the only two ways to complete a 2022 NRCC or LMCC form. There may be other tools that come on the market, or if you're doing a performance project, you may use CDEC or IES or some other approved software. But in order to get your data to flow through to the install certificate, these are the two tools that are currently kind of hooked up to this system. Okay, do we have any questions before I jump into the demo of the actual tool? That will be the next thing we do. All right, if anybody has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Okay, so I told Lisa at the very beginning, we're going to start at the beginning. So I've just come to the homepage of the Energy Code ACE website, so energycodeace.com. You will want to sign in. So if you do not already have an account, a username and password for the Energy Code ACE website, you are going to have to create one. I understand that that's a drag for people, but this tool saves your projects within the tool, and for you to be able to come back and access a project that's been saved in the tool, you have to be able to log in. So if you don't have an Energy Code ACE account, we will do this at the end as well. I'll do a quick run through of how to do that, but you can come to the top right corner. I'm already logged in, so it says my account. It will say sign in here, and then you can scroll over that and then just scroll over create account. You would put your email, create your username and password, and then you'll be able to log into the website. So I am already logged in, which is why it says my account. There are two ways to navigate to the virtual compliance assistant. The first way is to go to my projects. So if you have projects that you've already started and saved in the tool, you can come up here to my account, click on my projects, and that will take you to your list of saved projects. The other way is to come over to this buildings drop down, and under the tools section, you can go to virtual compliance assistant. So either one of those ways will get you to the tool. Coming this way is not going to get you to your projects. It's just going to take you straight to the start a new project in the tool. So I usually come to it this way because I want to see my saved projects. So I clicked on my projects, and now I've got a couple options here. I can see the projects that I have already saved in the tool, or I can start a brand new project. So for this demo, we're going to start a new project. So I would click on this. And then it's going to ask, do you want to complete a certificate of compliance? Again, this is what you would do if you are going in for your construction permit and going in for plan review. This demo is about the certificate of installation, which is completed to document field conditions, as-built conditions. So we're going to start with a new installation form. All right. So we've talked a lot already about how this tool brings data forward from the compliance certificate to the installation certificate. So if you want to do that, then you need to use a compliance ID. The compliance ID comes from the permitted certificate of compliance. So what we're doing here is taking a number, an ID number, off the certificate of compliance, entering it into this tool that grabs the data from the certificate of compliance and then allows you to just document as-built conditions in the install certificate. In a few slides, I'll show you guys a picture of the compliance certificate and where to get this compliance ID. If your NRCC form, your compliance certificate, does not have a compliance ID in the footer, you would select this option, but then you're going to have to manually input the as designed conditions. So the automation part comes in and bringing that data forward if you have a compliance ID. So I saw the question about, will CBEC include a compliance ID? Right now, if you go to CBEC directly as your user interface and produce your NRCC per form from CBEC, it will not include a compliance ID. So you would need to use this option and manually enter the data. However, if you're using Energy Pro, which also uses CBEC in the back end, Energy Pro will have a compliance ID, so you'll be able to use this automated option. I'm not going to walk through manual entry right now, but we definitely could follow up and maybe have another session on doing manual entry. The demo I have prepared today is using the compliance ID. So I'm going to choose compliance ID and then hit continue. Then we're going to set up our project. So this is asking for basic information. What's your project title? My demo today is the Newport Candy Company. And I'm going to put code breaker, so I know that's what this project is. What you might want to put here is, what your scope of work is. So if you're the indoor lighting contractor, you may want to put indoor lighting, or you may want to put mechanical controls, or, pool pump contractor. So whatever your scope of work is, it might be useful to put in your project title. Okay, so then we're going to add the city. Our demo's in Valencia. I'm going to add the zip code. The zip code is used to determine the climate zone. So you'll see once I put the zip code in and click away, the tool knows that this zip code is in climate zone 9. So it's assigning that. Okay, then we're going to hit continue. We're asking for energy code version, but right now there's only one choice. So this is probably the easiest question there is in this tool. So you would select 2022 because these new install certificates and this new feature in the VCA tool is only available for 2022 forms. Compliance certificates can be completed for the 2019 standards. We've added the install certificates now for the 2022 standards. This question is asking about how many stories the building is and if it includes dwelling units. So I've mentioned a couple of times that the VCA tool works for non-residential projects and also for low-rise multifamily and mixed-use projects. So this tool is, or this question is determining, do you need to use a non-res form or do you need to use the low-rise multifamily mixed use form? If your building is less than 4 stories, so it's 3 stories or less, and includes dwelling units, you would use the low-rise multifamily mixed use form. So I'm going to leave it as no, it's not less than 4 stories and includes dwelling units. What that means is we'll be using the non-residential form. Okay, and then this is where we were talking earlier about the different systems covered by the install forms. So we're trying to make the form names really easy to determine what systems are covered. So ELC means it's going to cover electrical systems and energy code requirements related to electrical systems. LTI will cover requirements for indoor lighting, including luminaires and controls. LTO is outdoor lighting. LTS is sign lighting, mechanical, plumbing, process systems. So process is going to be stuff like refrigeration systems, lab exhaust, garage exhaust, pools. Those are all covered under process. And then solar and battery, SAB, would be the solar and battery requirements. So we're going to pretend like we're a lighting contractor and look at the indoor lighting form. Okay, so now we're at the place where the tool is saying, okay, I'm ready to pull the data in from the certificate of compliance. So please give me your compliance ID. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint here because I want to show you guys what it looks like and where you would find the compliance ID. So this is a screenshot from a certificate of compliance. Again, this is what was permitted. So this was filled out by the designer. It's gone through plan review and it's part of the permitted, construction document package. So you would look for this on the drawing set or as part of the permit package. If you can't find this on the drawing set, then reach back out to the designer of record. So if you're the lighting contractor, you could reach out to the lighting designer and say, I don't see the certificate of compliance in the construction documents. Can you please send me a copy? Because you need this compliance ID number and it's on the form, the compliance certificate. So this is going to be in the footer of the certificate of compliance. It will say compliance ID, and there it is. So for each permitted form, there will be a separate compliance ID here. So it's going to be a unique number. So you need the form that was permitted for the project that you're about to do submittals for. And you're going to look in the footer and there it should be. So let's take this number, go back to our VCA tool, and we'll type in the number. And I did it already before, so there it is. You would just type in the compliance ID and hit apply. So now what it's doing is it's grabbing the data from that certificate of compliance. It's grabbing the data from the certificate of compliance and it's going to put it up here for you. And it's going to say, okay, based on your scope, which is what it's going to ask me next, here is the permitted information that's relevant to the energy code and also relevant to your scope of work. So this is asking me a few basic pieces of information about my scope of work. So the first thing is the permit number, which you should have from the construction permit. So I'm just going to make something up here, but this would be issued by the authority having jurisdiction. Then you're going to put in the relevant AHJ. So for Valencia, it's Santa Clarita Building and Safety. That's the AHJ that's issued the permit. Then it's asking for the date of the permit set. So it's asking for the date of the construction documents that were permitted. So I'm going to put in January 2nd. These construction documents, what's shown on the plan set, that's the permit set, is January 2nd. And then there may or may not be a subsequent set. As you guys know, throughout construction, updated plan sets may be issued to reflect as-built conditions, or it may just be, people in the field jotting down notes. So if there is an as-built set that was issued after this permit set, then you would want to put in the date of that as-built set. So let's say, yeah, yesterday an as-built set was issued, and that's what I'm using. This is the most current set. That's what I'm using to do my submittals. So now it's going to ask about scope. So we're assuming you're a lighting contractor because you're filling out the indoor lighting form. But maybe you're a lighting contractor that's doing controls only, or maybe you're doing luminaires only, and there's another lighting contractor that's in charge of the controls. So we're asking for what is in your scope of work. Because we're trying to keep this demo kind of short, I'm just going to put luminaires. But if you're doing both luminaires and controls, you would click both, and then you would document the substitutions for both. And then it's going to ask, are we working in both conditioned and unconditioned spaces? So if there's a separate lighting contractor that's doing the parking garage or an unconditioned space and you're only working in conditioned space, then you would just click conditioned space. For our demo, we're going to say our lighting scope covers both conditioned and unconditioned areas. And then it's going to ask if we're doing both general lighting and decorative lighting, or if we're doing just one or the other. If I'm a lighting contractor and I'm only doing the decorative lighting in the lobby, then I would only click decorative. So what that means is the information that's coming in from the compliance certificate would not include all the general lighting information. We would only be including the decorative lighting. So this is asking about what's in your scope of work, because we're trying to only present you with information that's relevant to you and your scope of work. We're trying to keep it less overwhelming. So I'm going to say we're doing both general and accent lighting on this project. Okay. So now what it's done is it's brought in that data from the certificate of compliance based on that compliance ID that we took off of the permitted certificate of compliance. So now what it's asking you to do is document your substitutions. Again, I think the best time for installers to do this is when they're putting their submittal packages together. Because if you are suggesting a substitution, and you want to be able to show the lighting designer that it's already equal or better. You've already gone through the tool and it's equal or better to what they included in the design. So that's really the best time to do this. Go ahead.
You have a question from Garrett. If he wants to play in a sandbox essentially and get familiar with using it before he actually has a project, can he enter a false certificate ID to bypass and access the tools?
You can't put in any number for compliance ID, because then the data from a fake certificate of compliance would not be there to bring forward for you. So you would have to find an example certificate of compliance to be able to put the ID in and be able to mess around with it. So we're making videos right now of this process for the install certificate. Lisa mentioned videos we have up for the certificate of compliance. Those are already done and live, but we're finishing up some videos for the install certificate, and those will be ready really soon. So those may help you, Garrett, just get a little bit more familiar. But
Sally,
yeah.
generate, like when we were developing training, we would generate essentially a sandbox NRCC. Can you do that and then go ahead and do the NRCIs or not?
Yeah, as long as there's an NRCC to grab data for, to put into the NRCI, then you can do that. So if you, Garrett, if you wanted to fill out a fake NRCC first, and then use that compliance ID to create an NRCI, you could do that. Okay, let's keep going here, because this is, I think, the exciting part where we're making substitutions and the tool's going to tell you if it's equal or better. So what this is showing is these are all the luminaires that were entered by the lighting designer and permitted on the certificate of compliance. So there's these types of luminaires. It looks like L2 is in here twice because it's used in both conditioned space and in unconditioned space. So that's why it's listed twice. And so this is what was specified by the lighting designer. So that's where this is coming from. This was entered on the certificate of compliance by the lighting designer. So what they're saying is for fixture L1, and this should match the luminaire schedule on the lighting plans. For fixture L1, this is what we're specifying. It's not track lighting or any kind of special fixture type. It's just a regular luminaire. It's 27 watts per luminaire, and this project has specified 34 of type L1 luminaires. So that's what this is showing. So if I'm the lighting contractor, I'm going to come here and say, okay, do I want to install this exact fixture that's been specified? Do I want to install 34 of these on the project at 27 watts a pop? And if I do, and I'm going to install and submit with my submittal package to the lighting designer exactly this, then I say it's going to exactly match what was permitted on the certificate of compliance. If the lighting contractor is installing exactly what was permitted, then it complies. So you're seeing a little green check mark here saying, hey, that complies if you're just going to install exactly what was permitted. If we're not, and we're going to make a substitution, so we're going to make a substitution here for L2, then I'm going to say, no, I'm not installing exactly what was permitted. I'm going to make a substitution. And then you can see it saying, oh, wait a minute, hold on, this doesn't comply. It doesn't comply because I haven't entered my substitution yet. So that's why it doesn't comply. But if you see red with the exclamation, it means that doesn't comply. So we're going to say, okay, we really want to substitute fixture L2. And to make it easy and quick, I'm going to say, I want to substitute that with fixture L5. So I would rather use this fixture in these spaces where the lighting designer has specified this L2 fixture. Instead, I would rather use L5. So I'm going to put in the substitution. I'm grabbing the information. L5 is 18 watts per fixture. So there's my wattage, the number of fixtures, and that's going to be different. And also the luminaire type. So if it's color changing luminaire or track lighting or just a regular individual luminaire, you would specify that. L5 is just a regular individual luminaire. So we're going to choose that. And then we're going to have to figure out, okay, if I want to use L5 in this space, the lighting designer has specified 3 luminaires at 30 watts a pop. But I want to submit to them a substitution of 6 luminaires at 18 watts a pop. So this is my substitution. This is what the lighting designer has specified and permitted. You'll notice once I've completed my substitution, it's giving me a yellow. Yellow means that may not comply. Yellow is like a yield. Hold up a second. So it's not saying it doesn't comply. It's not red with the check. It's not saying it does comply, which is the green. It's saying, wait a minute, that might not comply. The reason is because compliance is based on wattage. And so what the lighting designer specified and permitted was 3 fixtures, 30 watts each. That's 90 watts. And what we want to substitute is 6 luminaires, 18 watts each. That's 108 watts. So what this is saying is you can submit this to the lighting designer as a substitution. The lighting designer then needs to redo their calculations and make sure using 108 watts here still complies, because their compliance calculation showed 90 watts. Okay, and then just for to keep moving on, because we only have 10 minutes left, I'm going to say yes for these others. We're not making any substitutions. We're going to install exactly what was permitted. And Lisa, I saw we have another question.
Yes, can someone else use the project NRCC certificate number from a project that you started to generate the NRCI forms for? Different login, using different login information.
Yes, yes. So there's no restrictions on how many times that compliance ID can be used, because that compliance ID might need to be used by multiple contractors. So for lighting, if there's a contractor that's doing the luminaires, a separate contractor that's doing controls, and a separate contractor that's doing lobby lighting, they would pull that same compliance ID, and each one of those contractors would use the same compliance ID. And then when they go in, they specify their scope and they say, I'm only doing controls. And then it would pull only the control information forward for that person. Okay. So we've noted our substitution. We got green checks on everything where we're not doing any substitutions. We got a yellow on our substitution. So now I hit go to the next phase, and this is saying your substitution may not comply unless the permitted certificate of compliance is revised. This is why we should be doing this at submittals, because I would note my substitution, I would print this form out, and I would send it with my submittal package to the lighting designer. And I would say, whatever reason, it's going to be way cheaper if we use fixture L5 in this space than fixture L2, or whatever reason you have for the substitution. But it's more wattage. It's 108 watts instead of 90. Does 108 watts still comply? And in order for the lighting designer to confirm that it still complies, they have to go back and revise their certificate of compliance. So in some ways, what this is trying to do for installers is to say, is it going to be worth it? It needs to be a conversation between the lighting designer and the installer. Is this substitution worth it to go back and redo that certificate of compliance? Some HJs may require that that certificate of compliance go back through them, go back through the plans examiner. So it's important to understand when you're doing submittals whether what you're substituting is equal or better than what was already permitted. And if it's not, then the designer has to redo those compliance calcs to make sure that it still complies. Now, if we had done a substitution and it was less wattage, so maybe it wasn't exactly what the lighting designer specified, but it was less wattage than what they specified, then this would say it complies, because the install certificate complies when it's equal or better than what was permitted. So in the case of luminaires, less wattage is better, and so it still complies. So this is a way for you guys to understand whether your substitution is equal or better, and then you can, I would still submit it to the lighting designer. Hey, I'd like to make this substitution. I already ran through the VCA tool. It's showing me that it's equal or better, so we should be good to go. Or it will tell you, like in this case, where it's saying, hey, that's not equal or better. It may not comply. You may need to revise your compliance certificate to verify compliance. Okay, so we're clicking out of that. This is the compliance summary. So with as far as navigating the tool, we sort of started at scope, then we entered our luminaires. Now we're in the compliance summary. And this is saying your install certificate does not comply because it's not equal or better than what was permitted. And so that's giving us a status. The other thing this does is it will tell you which acceptance tests, which acceptance forms, which are related to tests. The LTIO2 is for shutoff lighting. The LTIO3 is for daylight controls. And it's going to tell you the spaces in the project that require these acceptance tests. So this is saying, hey, lighting controls contractor, your project and your scope is triggering acceptance tests. All right. So then we move on. Something that's required by all of the Title 24 compliance forms is that they have to be signed by a responsible person. They may be completed by somebody else. Those people are called the documentation author. But in the end, the form has to be signed by the responsible person. In the case of the installer, the responsible person is the licensed contractor. So you may have a project engineer filling out these forms, but in the end, the licensed contractor has to sign as the responsible person because these are legal documents and they're given to the owner at the end of the project as part of the construction documents and the as-built side. So if the person filling the form out is the responsible person, you can just assign yourself, which is really easy. You just click on this little stamp icon. If I'm a project engineer and I'm not a responsible person and I need to invite the responsible person, you do it this way by adding a team member, and you can put in their name, you put in their email, you assign them as the responsible person, and then you invite them. And they will get an automated email that says, hey, somebody's filled out an installation certificate and they would like you to review it as a responsible person. And actually the person that's sending this invite can type in a quick note. So I could say, hey, Lisa, I started the LTI install certificate. I'd like you to take a look at it because you're going to have to sign it in the end as a responsible person. So please accept this invite. And then they would get access to this project in the tool and be able to come in and review the project. So
question for you. Oh, sorry, Sally.
Go ahead.
James wants to know if he needs a different license to approve each blueprint, if different from the original drawing with a change out of designs approved.
Ooh, I don't know the answer to that. Plus that feels very legally to me. But the licensure requirements for the energy code are in, oh, Amy, you may need to help me in the chat. I want to say 10-103, certainly part 1, where there's language. I think it's in 10-103 about who can be the responsible person and sign these. And I think it's license related to the business and professions code. But I would look there for more. Yeah, Alan's answering that. So the licensure is regulated by the business and professions code by the state of California. Okay, so I'm going to say that I am the responsible person. I'm filling this form out. I'm also the responsible person for this. So now my little alert that no responsible person has been assigned disappeared because I've assigned myself. And then you can go, and I realize we only have a couple of minutes left, so I'm wrapping it up. So then you can go get your PDF form. So this is still giving you a warning saying, hey, you may not comply. So you can download this form, but it should not be submitted to the AHJ until it complies. So if it were me, I would make the substitution. I would download the form, which we can do, and then I would send it in with the submittal package to the lighting designer and say, here's the substitution. I've run through the tool. It's equal or better, or can you revise the compliance certificate and and verify, verify that the additional wattage still complies. Okay.
And
so
did you see the question from Pete?
No.
Does the virtual compliance assistant only calculate NRCC forms prescriptively? And I'm feeling rather smug. I think I know the answer to this one.
Go for it. Yes, the VCA tool is not an energy modeling software, so it does not do the performance compliance calculations. It only covers mandatory and prescriptive compliance forms. Now, the installation certificates are used whether the project is using performance or prescriptive. So the installation certificates here apply to all NRCC's performance and prescriptive. Okay, so we produced our PDF. It came back to me like this. This is what it looks like. All the information that we have put into our tool is completed here in the form, as you guys can see. It's still saying features may not comply. So if you take this to a building inspector, they're going to see that it says, hey, the features may not comply. And they're probably going to say, I don't think so. I want to see a form that says features comply because they're equal or better, because that's what complies. So this can be a tool you guys use to work between the designer and the contractor. But by the time you get to really inspection with the inspector, this should say everything complies, it's equal or better. And this is showing you under our fixture schedule, L2 is what we substituted. So this is what the designer should be looking for. The designer is saying, hey, where's the problem here? This says it exactly matches. This says it matches. Oh, this is the one that says it may not comply. It's this substitution. And it's showing that we want to use this fixture instead of this fixture, and we want to use 6 of them at 18 watts each. So this is giving the substitution information to the designer. Okay, and then one more quick thing, because I know we're out of time. I just wanted to point out that the acceptance test requirements are also highlighted here on the compliance form, including the spaces that require acceptance testing. And a copy of this install certificate should be given to the acceptance test technician. So once the technician gets on board on the project, they should get a copy of this install certificate. Okay. I know that was a little bit of a whirlwind, so I appreciate you guys hanging with me. I'm happy to stay on for any additional questions. And Camille's going to change it here so that you can see our evaluation survey. I'd really love feedback from you guys on what went well, what we could do better. We want to make sure that these trainings are worth your time. So please click on the monkey there and complete the survey for us. It's really short. Thank you guys so much for joining. And like I said, I'm happy to stay on for any questions if anybody has any.
Thanks, Sally. Nice job. We appreciate it. And again, to hype the upcoming videos that you mentioned, we're going to have on the Energy Code ACE YouTube channel a series of videos. As I said earlier, there is a series on how to use the virtual compliance assistant to create non-residential certificates of compliance. And it also gives an overview of the key features and functions. It's actually got some cool functions that Sally didn't have time to get into today. But you can, that one's geared to the 2019 version of the virtual compliance assistant, but it's largely still applicable. So it's a good overview. And then we will be soon posting videos on using the virtual compliance assistant to generate 2022 non-residential certificates of installation.
That's right.
And you can find those when we post them to our YouTube channel. We also create links to them on the training page of the Energy Code Ace website. So if you go to energycodeace.com, go to Building Standards Training, you can find links to what we've got on the YouTube channel there.
Thanks, Lisa. Warren is asking if this was recorded. Warren, there is a workbook that you can download. I would also expect that we probably will be doing more of these install certificate code breakers, and also the videos that Lisa just talked about. Those are going to be coming out probably in the next couple weeks. So I would certainly look for those as well.
And, you know, we did record this, and if somebody has a pressing need to listen to this, watch this, a video recording of this session, we can make that link available to you. It's not going to be a regular part of our training, but we can make it available to you.
Okay.
So let me.
He could email me. Warren, you can see my email address there, Sally Blair, on the screen, sblair@nrasco.com. Just shoot me an email real quick and let me know, and we can get you the link.
Okay, I thank you, Sally. And I put another email address. That one also works. That's our online training address.
Perfect.
So either one of those will work. And Sally, I will send you the link to the video, or you can just forward any requests to me.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll do that. I'll forward requests to you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions. Thank you guys so much for your time. There's going to be a lot more resources coming out for install certificates because these are redesigned for this code cycle. So sign up on Energy Code Ace, and you'll need that login to fill out your forms anyways within the VCA tool, but you can also identify yourself as an installer, and then we'll send you information when new things come out related to the installer role. Thank you guys so much for your time. Have a great Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Thanks, Lisa.